It started that night.
I rented the house because it looked normal. That's the part that bothers me the most when I replay everything. There were no red flags, no creepy pictures on the listing, nothing suspiciously cheap. Just a decent two-bedroom unit on the second floor of a converted duplex in a quiet Spokane, Washington neighborhood. I was there for a 2-month work rotation. Nothing complicated. The landlord, Mrs. Temple, lived downstairs. Small, polite, always wearing a cardigan. People come and go, she said while handing me the lease. But the upstairs has nice morning light. Morning light. I wish I never saw the nights. The first night passed without anything strange. Just the cold November air, a few cars outside, and the hum of the heater. But the second night changed everything. Around 2:14 a.m., a single, heavy step snapped me awake. It came directly from above my bed. I stared at the ceiling, confused. Then another step creaked, slow and deliberate. Then a third. Someone was walking, right above me. Except there was no upstairs, only the attic. I told myself the house was old, with expanse, settling noises, the usual excuses. 20 minutes later, the steps faded. I slept with the lamp on. The next morning, I mentioned it casually to Mrs. Temple. She stopped stirring her tea and said quietly, "Oh, you heard that already?" Already. She forced a tiny smile. Addicts breathe a lot in the cold. Before I left for work, she added something in the softest tone. "If you ever hear someone calling your name, don't answer." She said it like she was reminding me to lock my car. The next night, around 1 a.m., I had the TV playing to avoid silence. But something whispered near my bed. At first, I thought it was static. Then I realized it was coming from the air vent on the floor. A faint whisper, breath-like. R. Isis. My chest tightened. The vent connected straight to the attic shaft. I slid off the bed and crawled closer, barely breathing. The whisper stretched again. "Haris, let me down." That was enough. I ran out of the room, grabbed my keys, and slept in my car until morning. The following day, I confronted Mrs. Temple. She didn't act confused or dismissive. She didn't say, "I imagined it." She just whispered, "It's earlier than usual." Earlier than usual. "What's in the attic?" I asked. "Not what?" she said. Who? Her husband, Howard, had died 8 years earlier. Heart failure. He collapsed in the attic while storing decorations. They didn't find him until morning. I froze. "So you think his spirit is up there?" "I think he never finished leaving," she whispered. Then she placed a small key in my hand. "If you hear him again, lock the attic door. He wanders." I didn't want to stay, but I had nowhere else booked and my work schedule was tight. That next night, tried blocking everything out with earbuds. I drifted off around midnight till a loud thud shook the ceiling above me. Another followed, then dragging noises. Then I saw it. 5 deep indentations pushing through the ceiling from above, hands sliding slowly across the plaster. Not punching, pressing, feeling, searching. Cracks formed under the pressure as the hand moved across the ceiling. I backed away from the bed, its heart hammering. The attic door in the hallway began to tremble, like something inside was pushing it. I ran, shoved the key into the lock, and twisted. The shaking stopped instantly. Silence, the kind that feels alive. The next morning, she finally told me the full story. Howard used to call for her while he was dying in the attic. "Let me down," he said over and over. "He still repeats it," she whispered. "Cold nights make him restless, and he doesn't like strangers upstairs." I wanted to leave, but I convinced myself I could handle one more night until I found another rental. That night, around 3 a.m., the house vibrated slightly, as if someone huge stepped inside. Then I heard footsteps on the staircase, slow, dragging, like each step took effort. I stared into the hallway. A tall silhouette leaned at the top of the stairs. Too tall. Its head hung at an angle that made my stomach twist. Haris. The voice was low, broken. You're in my room. My blood turned to ice. He knew my name. I backed into the kitchen, keeping my eyes on the hallway. Something scraped along the wall, like long fingernails being dragged. I yanked the back door, locked. I kicked it once, twice, till it burst open. I sprinted outside and didn't stop running until I reached my car. I drove around until sunrise, hands shaking. In the morning, I went back only to grab my things. When I stepped into the bedroom, the ceiling was covered in dragged hand, marks wide, smeared, too long, like something crawled across it all night. I packed as fast as I could. Mrs. Temple didn't ask why I was leaving. Daylight is the safest time, was all she said. I checked into a cheap motel 3 hours away. Old place, flickering lights, but no attic. I finally felt like I could breathe again, but at 2:03 a.m., 3 slow knocks hit the wall next to my bed. I froze. Then a whisper seeped through the thin motel drywall. Harris, let me down. My stomach dropped. I wasn't in the house anymore, but the voice had followed me. And even now, weeks later, sometimes when I lie down to sleep, I hear faint scratches on the ceiling, like someone is trying to find their way down. My name is Ryan. I'm 28, from Denver. And in late 2023, I took a 3-month contract job in Salem, Oregon. The job was decent, but the rental market was insane. Everything was overpriced or booked. I was down to my last option when I stumbled onto an ad. Room for rent, clean, quiet home, mature owner, tow pets, no drama. The place was a 2-story house owned by a woman named Mrs. Fay. Mid-50s, silver hair, pale skin, very soft-spoken. She had these gentle movements, like she was constantly trying not to disturb something in the air. Kind, polite, and exactly what someone desperate for a place would call normal. She showed me the room upstairs, small, decent lighting, simple furniture. Then she pointed directly across the hallway. That's my room, Sid said. Her voice was so soft, I had to lean forward. I don't mind sharing the floor, as long as you stay quiet at night. I laughed awkwardly. I'm pretty quiet. We'll see, she replied. Not sarcastic. She said it like a warning. I should have paid more attention. The first night went smoothly. No weird sounds, no open doors, no nightmares. She made tea, read our newspaper, went to bed before 10 p.m. But the second night, around 1:40 a.m., something woke me. A thin, scraping sound in the hallway. Not footsteps, more like fabric dragging. I opened the door slightly and peeked out. Nothing, just a dark hallway, her closed bedroom door. The scraping lasted maybe 30 seconds. Then silence. The next morning at breakfast, she didn't look tired or bothered. How'd you sleep? She asked. Good. You? Oh, she said, folding her hands. I don't sleep much. I walk sometimes. Then she added something strange. If you ever see me outside my room after midnight, don't speak to me. I laughed nervously. Okay? Why? Her expression didn't change. Just don't. Her eyes didn't blink for several seconds. I wished I never rented that room. The following night, around 3 a.m., I woke to a whisper. Not words, just a faint, breathy sound, like someone exhaling inches from my door. I sat up, heart pounding. Then the whisper came again, but lower, drawn out. H, 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 H. I felt cold crawl up my spine. I leaned forward, listening. Suddenly, something pressed against my door from the outside. Light pressure at first, then more. Slow, steady, pushing inward. The wood creaked. I held my breath. Then her voice, but soft and shaky, right outside the door. Ryan, are you awake? She said not to speak to her after midnight. I stayed silent. Her fingernail tapped the door. Slow tap, tap, tap. You shouldn't be awake. The tone was completely unfamiliar, hollow, almost like someone else speaking through her. Then her breath hit the bottom of the door, a soft whisper. You smell awake. I froze. After a solid minute, the pressure eased. I heard her door open across the hall, a slow, creaking hinge, then a long, dragging sound as she walked back to her room. The next morning, she acted completely normal. No mention of the night. No signs of exhaustion. She just asked if I wanted oatmeal. I kept watching her hands tremble. I think you came to my door last night, I finally said. She looked up from the stove. No, I never leave my room after 11. She stirred the oats. And you shouldn't say I do. I didn't push further. 2 nights later, things escalated. I was lying in bed, scrolling through my phone around midnight. Everything was quiet. Too quiet. Even with the window closed, houses usually have small sounds, distant traffic, wind, something. But her house felt sealed, like sound couldn't get out. Then, at 12:47 a.m., I heard her doorknob turn. Then, creak. The door opened slowly, painfully slow, as if she was scared to make noise. I turned off my phone and stared at the ceiling. I heard her bare feet step into the hallway, one, then another, dragging. She stopped exactly between our rooms. A long silence. Then she whispered, "Are you awake now?" I didn't respond. Her breathing shifted, becoming uneven, excited. Good, good. From the crack under my door, a shadow moved, her feet turning toward my door. I gripped my blanket so tight, my knuckles hurt. Her fingers slid beneath the door this time, pale, twitching, reaching blindly along the floor. When her nails scraped the wood, I almost shouted. Then she whispered again, "Come outside." Nope, no chance. I stayed silent until her shadow finally drifted away. She didn't walk back into her room. The shadow faded toward the stairs. I waited 10 minutes, then cracked my door open slightly too. Look, she wasn't in the hallway. Her bedroom was open. The light was off, but something was wrong. The stairs weren't dark at all. They were glowing dot at first. I thought she left the downstairs light on, but when I stepped closer, the light flickered like candlelight. I slowly leaned my head over the stair railing and looked down. My breath caught at the bottom of the stairs. Mrs. Fay was kneeling on the floor, facing the wall. Her hands were flat against it. Her head leaned sideways as if listening. Candles surrounded her body in a circle. Her voice was soft and broken. "Please let him sleep. Please let him sleep." She rocked back and forth on her knees. Her hair hung over her face, and something about her posture terrified me. Too stiff, too unnatural. Then she stopped rocking. Her head twisted sharply, still sideways, but now facing upward at me. "Ryan," she whispered, without lifting her head, "you shouldn't be awake." I stepped back instantly. My heel hit the floorboard. It creaked. She snapped upright. I slammed my door shut and locked it. Then I pushed the dresser in front of it. She didn't come up. Not that night. The next morning, the candles were gone. The downstairs looked normal. Her bedroom door was closed. When she finally came out, she acted like nothing happened. She offered me coffee. Her voice was normal. Her posture was normal. "Sleep well?" she asked. I shook my head. "I think you need help." She smiled softly. "I'm not the one in danger." I packed half my things and worked from my office that whole day, avoiding the house as much as possible. I planned to leave permanently the next morning, but the house wasn't finished with me. Around 10:30 p.m., I sat in my room with the lights on, suitcase packed. I intended to sleep only 2 hours before leaving, but the house began making noises again, low humming, like distant voices behind the walls. I turned up the fan. No help. At 1:02 a.m., I heard her door creak open again. I knew the sound now. Slow, steady, the hinge crying like something old waking from a nap. Her feet scraped the floor, but this time, they approached my door immediately. Her breath seeped under the crack. Then, a different whisper, deeper, layered, like two voices speaking at once. She stays quiet for me. Why won't you? I covered my mouth. Suddenly, she began knocking rapidly. Not with her knuckles, but with her head, hitting the door. Light, but rhythmic. Thud, 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 each one harder. Then it stopped. Silence. Then she whispered, "Come out. Come out now. I don't have long." I didn't move. Then she said something that froze me. "It's not me at your door." I felt cold, freezing cold, because the voice, it wasn't hers. It didn't even sound human. Then all at once, something rammed my door violently. The dresser slid an inch. I jumped back. Another hit, stronger, the wood cracking. I screamed. Then everything stopped dead quiet after 10 seconds. I heard her real voice, soft, trembling whisper, "Please stay inside. He's hungry tonight." I backed into the corner and didn't move. I didn't sleep. I didn't breathe normally for hours. When the sun finally rose, grabbed everything and left the room as fast as possible. At the bottom of the stairs, she was sitting on the couch, pale, exhausted, dark circles under her eyes. She didn't say good morning. She didn't ask questions. She just whispered. I tried to keep him on my side of the hall. My skin crawled. "Who?" She looked up with tears in her eyes. "My late son. He died in that room years ago, the one you slept in." I froze. "I keep my door across from his," she said. "So when he wanders, he thinks I'm still watching him sleep." My mouth went dry. "Told you to stay quiet at night," she whispered. "He only notices the awake ones." I left the house without another word. 2 months passed. New apartment. New routine. But sometimes, around 1 a.m., I still wake up suddenly to a faint sound outside my bedroom door. A slow, dragging step. Then a whisper. "You smell awake." I never opened the door, ever. My name is Alex Morgan, 31, from Fresno. In early 2024, I took a remote work contract and decided to get out of the city for a while. I had been burned out, mentally exhausted, and I wanted quiet trees, cold air, actual silence. Every therapist video online kept saying the same thing. Nature heals the mind. So I went looking for a place to rent for at least a month. That's how I found Pine Hollow Village. It wasn't really a village, more like a cluster of 20 houses deep inside Oregon's forest line near Tillamook. Small community, mostly older folks. Barely any cell signal, but Wi-Fi inside the rental was supposed to be stable. The listing pictures showed a small wooden house, single floor, old-fashioned porch, fireplace, and a single neighbor down the slope. Something about the way trees curled around the roof felt cozy. I booked it instantly when I arrived. The first thing I noticed was the silence. Not peaceful silence. Heavy silence. No birds, no distant cars, not even wind. Just a stillness that pressed down on everything. The owner, a man in his mid-50s, named Mr. Hawthorne, greeted me on the porch. He was oddly tall, thin, with deep eye bags like he hadn't slept in weeks. But his handshake was polite. "You're the first renter this winter," Kay said, unlocking the door. "People don't like staying out here once the nights get longer." I laughed lightly. "Why? Bears." He smiled too quickly. "No, something worse than bears." Then he said nothing else. Inside smelled like old wood and lavender. Cozy, warm, everything neatly arranged. He showed me the kitchen, the fireplace, the bedroom, then pointed at the back door. "Whatever you do," he said, "don't leave this door open after sunset." His voice was calm but firm. I frowned. "Why?" He exhaled slowly. eyes drifting to the forest behind the house. They come closer when they smell heat. My stomach tightened. He blinked once. It's nothing you need to worry about. Just keep it shut. Then he handed me the keys and left without another word. I stood in the living room, wondering if he was joking or just lonely for the first couple of hours. I worked, unpacked, made tea, normal stuff. But as soon as the sun dipped, something in the house changed. A heaviness, like the air grew colder from the inside. Around 7 p.m., I heard footsteps outside on the gravel path. Slow, crunching, coming from the tree line behind the house. I walked to the kitchen window and looked. Don't bite, just the outline of tall fir trees, fading into darkness. Then another footstep closer. I should have kept the backlight off, but instinctively, I flicked it on. The yard lit up in pale yellow. The sound stopped immediately. No animals, no people, just silence. I stood still for nearly a minute, waiting for something to move. When nothing happened, I locked the back door, double-checked the windows, and told myself it was probably a deer. That night, I fell asleep around midnight at 2:13 a.m. I woke up instantly, no reason, just wide awake. The kind of alert that doesn't feel natural. The house was dead silent, but outside, there was breathing, slow, heavy, wet breathing, like something panting through its nose, inches from the wall of my bedroom. At first, I thought I was imagining it, but then it grew louder, circling dot to the left, then the right, then pausing behind the headboard, like something huge was sniffing at the house. I sat up, heart punching my ribs. I didn't dare move closer to the window. Then something touched the glass. Not a tap. A long, dragging slide, like a fingertip, slowly tracing the window pane. I held my breath. Then another finger joined it 2 drags. Then 3, then a full hand. Whatever it was feeling the glass. I jolted back from the window, even though I couldn't see anything. I whispered to myself, nope, that's enough forest living. But the dragging stopped suddenly. Then, silence until something spoke. A voice so low and stretched, it felt like words forced through mud. One arm. I jumped to my feet, grabbed my phone, and hid in the hallway, shaking so badly I nearly dropped it. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. The next morning, I walked directly to the neighbor's house down the slope. An older man stepped out, probably mid-60s, sipping coffee with a cigarette in hand. You must be the new renter, he said. Did you hear anything last night? I asked immediately. He stared at me for several seconds. Too long. Then he shook his head and walked past me without answering. But before he shut his door, he muttered, should have rented in summer. That whole day, I fought the urge to pack up and leave, but I convinced myself it had to be an animal. A bear, a mountain lion, something big. The whisper. Maybe wind by sunset. I had locked the back door, closed all curtains, and turned on every light inside. The forest outside felt like a giant mouth waiting to swallow the house. Around 11 p.m., I was working on my laptop when the porch light flickered. Just once. Then again, then it went out completely. I got up slowly and walked to the front window. The yard was pitch-black dot. Then something moved. Not walking, crawling. I could hear the weight of it dragging through the gravel, pulling itself closer. Every instinct screamed not to look, but I peeked through a gap in the curtain. Something crouched near the edge of the porch. I couldn't see its face. Or maybe it didn't have one. It was hunched, long, too long. Limbs bending in ways that looked painful. Its chest expanded like it was sniffing. Then it turned its head directly toward the window. Not because it saw me, because it felt me. My throat locked. Once again, the voice slid out of it. Why? I dropped the curtain and backed away. Suddenly, the thing shot forward faster than I could think, slamming onto the porch, rattling the wooden boards. It pressed against the front door, sniffing, pushing, like a starving animal trying to find a crack. door vibrated. I grabbed a chair and wedged it under the doorknob, then ran to the back door and checked the locks again. For 10 seconds, everything was silent. Then the creature exhaled. A deep, raspy breath seeped through the cracks of the door, like wind being forced through teeth. Then it whispered, "Lemmy." And I nearly threw up. The creature scratched the door. Lightly at first, then harder, then violently, wood chips falling onto the floor. I ran into the bedroom and called 911. But the call wouldn't connect. No signal for the next 20 minutes. It circled the house, scraping walls, dragging its body, whispering warm again and again. At one point, I heard it climb onto the roof, the boards groaning under its weight. I sat in the corner of the living room, clutching a kitchen knife, useless, waiting for it to find a way in. Finally, near dawn, the noises faded. The silence returned. I didn't wait. I packed my bag, got in my car, and drove down the forest road like my life depended on it. When I reached the main highway, I pulled over and tried calling the owner. He picked up on the first ring. "You left early," he said calmly. Not surprised. Not confused? What the hell lives out there? I yelled. He sighed, long and tired. For generations, people here believed the forest kept something, hungry during the cold months. Something that listens for heat. "Why didn't you warn me?" I cried. "I did," he said softly. "I told you not to leave the door open after sunset." "I didn't." Silence. Then, in a flat voice, he said, "You must have, because it only comes for those it can smell." The call ended. I drove straight back to Fresno, shaking the whole way. It's been almost a year since that night. Winter came again, and every so often, around 3 a.m., I wake up with the feeling that something outside my apartment's window is standing very still, listening, waiting, and sometimes, when the heater turns on, I swear I hear a faint voice behind the wall. Warm. I rented the cabin because I thought it would save me financially, mentally, emotionally. I burned out from my IT job in Dallas. My doctor told me to take a break, maybe travel, maybe get away from screens for a month. So I looked for a cheap place somewhere quiet, something nature-surrounded where I could reset my mind. Peanut Gate Valley looked perfect on the listing photos. Mountains, thick fir trees, fog rolling down the road, lakes nearby. The cabin that caught my eye was small but charming. Wood interior, stone fireplace, big windows. The price was unbelievably low, but people said rural places were like that. I arrived on November 6, 2024. The air was already freezing and felt 10 times heavier than Dallas air. I remember the exact moment I pulled up to the cabin at sunset, golden light, hitting the trees while everything else was dead quiet. The woods didn't move. No wind, no birds, just a strange, heavy silence that felt like it was watching me back. The owner was a tall, lean, older guy named Marshall, maybe in his early 60s. He lived about half a mile downhill, so he said, and I barely saw him except for the moment he handed me the keys. "You'll hear things at night," he said casually, like mentioning the weather. "What kind of things?" I laughed. He didn't laugh back. "Woods, talk, animals, wind moving wrong. If you hear footsteps." He paused. "Don't open the curtains." I thought he was joking, just playing into the creepy cabin stereotype, but the way he walked away quickly, without turning back, made something inside me clench. I shook it off. New place, new environment, nerves, that's all. I unpacked my bags, set up my laptop, lit the fireplace, and made coffee. I remember feeling cozy, the kind of cozy that makes you forget every stress of city life. That feeling didn't last long. Around midnight, I heard the first sound, not footsteps, not animals. It was knocking, rhythmic, soft, slow, knock, 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 knock. It came from the back of the cabin, which made no sense. There was no back door, only windows. I froze, listening, knock, knock. It stopped. I didn't sleep well that night. Next day, I tried to rationalize it. Could be wood expanding from the cold. Could be branches hitting the back wall. Could be anything. So I went to the backyard area to check it out. Nothing. No trees close enough. No loose boards. No signs of animals. Just snow and something that bothered me even more. Colon footprints. Not boot prints. Not barefoot. Something in between. Shaped almost human, but wider. Like the arch was too long, walking in a perfect line, straight toward the cabin wall. And I swear to God, they didn't walk away. There were no return tracks, just a trail ending at the wall. I stared at them until my breath started shaking out white fog. My first instinct was to pack up, leave, but I had paid for a whole month. And I really didn't want to believe. I was so paranoid, I ditched everything over footprints. I cleaned up inside, made breakfast, and tried to distract myself by reading. But the silence, it felt wrong. The kind that presses against your ears. The kind where you start hearing your own heartbeat louder than anything else by afternoon. Clouds swallowed the sky and snowfall began. Heavy, fast, endless. By 5 p.m., it looked like midnight outside. I lit the fireplace, turned on some soft jazz, and tried to relax. Then the knocking started again. Same rhythm, same slowness, same direction, from the back of the cabin, just like the night before. This time, I got up and walked quietly to the hallway window. I didn't open the curtain, but I leaned close. The knocking stopped the moment I got near Dot's silence. I whispered under my breath, "What do you want?" Something answered, not a word, not a voice, a long, slow exhale, right against the glass. I backed away instantly, heart slamming against my ribs. It felt like someone was standing on the other side of the window, inches away, breathing so slowly it didn't sound human. I didn't open the curtain. I remembered what the owner had said. If you hear footsteps, don't open the curtains. That night, I slept with lights on. Every hour, I woke up to silence. Not peaceful silence, the kind that feels like something is waiting for you to make a mistake. Third day, I forced myself to get out of the cabin. I drove down the snowy road to the small town Pinnegate Village. I had a late lunch at a diner and casually asked the waitress about the cabins in the valley. She froze. Which cabin? The one up on Timber Ridge Road. She instantly stopped pouring coffee. You're renting Marshall's place? Yeah? Why? She walked closer, lowered her voice. Has anything strange happened? I laughed nervously. Like, what? She swallowed hard. No one stays there more than 4 or 5 days. Why? There's something in those woods. Something that watches the cabin. Something that doesn't like when people stay after dark. The hairs on my neck stood up. I asked her if anyone had been hurt, but she shook her head. Not hurt. Just changed. Spooked. My cousin stayed there last winter. He won't talk about it. Won't even drive near that road. I left the diner feeling worse than before. On the drive back, I kept checking the rearview mirror, half expecting something to be running behind me in the snow. That night, things escalated. Around 2 a.m., I woke to the sound of footsteps walking across the roof. Slow, heavy steps, snow crunching under the weight. Creak, creak, step, step. I covered my mouth so I wouldn't make a sound. The footsteps moved to the edge of the roof, right above my bedroom window, and then a finger or something like one slid down the outside of the glass, dragging a long, screeching line. I was paralyzed. The sound was so close, it felt like it was inside my skull. Scratch, scratch, slow, not deliberate. When it stopped, a new sound followed, whispering, muffled, deep, not English, not anything human. It whispered like it was trying to copy a voice, but didn't know how. I couldn't take it anymore. I grabbed my phone and called Marshall, the owner. It rang twice. He answered, sounding wide awake. You've lasted longer than others, he said immediately. What the hell is outside my cabin? I whisper yelled. Don't look at it, he said. Whatever you do, don't open the curtains. It learns faces. It follows people home. Wait, it's older than the town, he said quietly. Older than the valley. My grandfather said it once lived deeper in the forest, but winters pushed it toward homes. It mimics things. Knocking, footsteps, breathing, voices. The whispering outside grew louder, almost angry. Marshall, what do I do? Lights, he said. Turn on every light you have. It won't come near brightness. I ran room to room, flipping switches, lamps, everything. The cabin glowed like a lighthouse in the dark. The whispering stopped at the footsteps, moved away. One slow step at a time until silence returned. I didn't sleep at all. Next morning, I decided to leave. I didn't care about the money. I didn't care about the burnout. Nothing was worth staying another night. I packed frantically, loaded my car, and rushed outside. The footprints in the snow were everywhere, circling the cabin, stopping at windows, twirling across the roof. But the worst part? On the driver's side window of my car, there was a handprint, too large, too long, fingers too thin. I jumped inside, heart racing, turned the engine on, and didn't look back. The woods felt alive as I drove away, like something was watching me leave, following the sound of my tires until I reached the main road. Once I hit the town, I called Marshall to tell him I left the keys under the mat. He sighed. It'll follow you for a few days, he said quietly. Ignore anything you hear. Don't answer if it calls your name. And don't look out your windows at night. You're kidding me? It gets bored after a little while. Just don't acknowledge it. I didn't answer. I hung up. That was 2 weeks ago. I'm back in Dallas now, trying to work, trying to sleep, trying to pretend everything's normal, but it isn't, because last night at 3:17 a.m., I heard knocking on my apartment balcony door, even though I'm on the 3rd floor. Same, rhythm, soft, slow, knock, knock, I didn't open the curtains. I didn't move, but something breathed against the glass and whispered my name.